Welcome back. Stephanie again with the patient story here with Amy, who just got done sharing those first symptoms that eventually led to testing and scans that led to a stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis. In this segment, Amy, I'd love to talk about the treatment, the different treatments that you've gone through, as well as when you learned about the MET amplification. So let's go into now, Amy, the details of your Keytruda experience. Can you describe the regimen, how, and the way that you took Keytruda, and then we'll go into the side effects.
Sure. Keytruda was done by infusion. So every 3 weeks, I would go into, it's about every 3 weeks, more like every month. I would go into the cancer center and they would just infuse me with Keytruda. Now, right after the Keytruda, I would get a shot of Xgeva, which is a bone strengthener, because at this point we had found out that I was starting to get bone mets. So he didn't want me to break any bones. So the Xgeva was important as well.
Let's talk about bone mets for people who don't understand. Can you describe what that means?
Sure. It basically means the cancer is in your bones. It's eating it is the best way to explain it. And they can break very easy. Extreme pain.
Describe that pain. What kind of pain is it? Is that?
No amount of opioids or anything could help that pain. We tried. Nothing worked. The opioids did help to let me sleep more, so I could kind of avoid the pain sleeping, but you still had that pain constant.
It sounds really rough.
It is, especially where I had them. So I had them in my femur. And so you can't, I started off with a cane, and then I went to a walker, and then I ended up in a wheelchair. So it was bad.
And over a span of what period of time did that happen?
A period of about a month and a half.
So, okay. So needed to get on treatment right away, right?
Yes.
Needed to address this. The Xgeva, did it have its own side effects?
Yeah, it didn't, not that I noticed. The only thing was a pain in your arm when he got it. And it was pretty bad. It wasn't your normal average, oh, give you a shot, it hurts. No, it was bad in the arm. But other than that, no side effects that I could tell.
Good. I'm so glad. So it's a monthly infusion. How long did it take?
It took half an hour.
So you would go in, it would take the infusion itself half an hour, but overall the appointment itself is going to be longer, right? Because
yes.
Did you have to do any tests beforehand?
Yes. So usually what they would do is they would do the labs to make sure that your liver and your kidney and everything is working like it's supposed to be. And then I would see my doctor. And after that, I would go to have my infusion done.
After you left, Amy, and you would go home, at what point did you start to feel side effects, if any, and what were they?
Well, the first time I had the first infusion, I had a panic attack when I got home. I'm kind of funny when it comes to drugs that you don't know what to expect. So I tend to worry about it, and it caused my own side effects. So I had a panic attack the first time, and in about 3 days afterwards is when the GI problems would start. The rashes started about a month afterwards.
Let's describe each of those and what helped you through those. So the GI problems, if you could openly just talk about what were they and what helped with them, if anything.
Sure. Well, when I first started having the GI problems, I had called my doc, or I'm sorry, not called him. I actually texted him, and they have a nurse navigator there who pretty much will answer all the questions. And they prescribed me several different types of nausea med, several different diarrhea medications, along with anything I could get off the counter. So basically they would throw everything at it and use what worked. So the nausea medication worked fairly well, but I noticed that I also had a funny taste in my mouth. So I ended up going and getting something called tummy drops, which are like these peppermint hard candies, and that worked very well to get rid of the nausea.
After you feel it, it's so hard to chase it.
It is. And it was funny because my family, my mom had come up from Florida. So she was trying to take care of me. So she would always want to feed me. And I wanted nothing to do with eating anything. I was like, I'll take a popsicle and that's it. So I had like this sugar rush for a while because that's all I could eat was ice cream, popsicles. And that's the only thing my stomach could handle.
And did that last throughout the whole time you were on?
The whole time I was on Keytruda, yes.
Okay. And now let's go into the next side effect. You started dealing with rashes?
Yes. I had a rash on my chest and a little bit on my legs, but oddly enough, they itch real bad. And I ended up using Aquaphor, which worked well. But I also had steroid in case I needed to take that, but I never really did because it never got that bad.
Okay. So they were just a little itchy.
Yeah. They would break open, almost blistery type.
Okay. So in terms of how bad it was just more of a nuisance maybe and a little
more of a nuisance. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Aquaphor helped, and then it sort of went away, or it didn't become a big problem.
It never went away. It always stayed there until I stopped Keytruda. And once I stopped that, it went away.
Got it. It's your body reacting to the drug. And so was there anything else that was a side effect that, impacted your life?
Severe fatigue, but I couldn't figure out if that was from the drug or from me not eating correctly. So I wasn't sure what it was. On top of that, I was taking the opioids for my bone metastases.
Do you remember what drugs you were taking for the?
Yeah, I was taking something called Xtamsa, which is a long-acting oxycodone. And I was taking oxycodone for breakthrough. And I was also taking Ativan to help. So, yeah, there was a lot.
Thank you for sharing that, Amy. I appreciate it. So how long were you on Keytruda? And then what was the catalyst for changing treatment?
I was on it for 3 months, and the catalyst was my 3rd month PET scan, which showed I had it everywhere. So I had it besides my lymph nodes, I had it in my shoulder. I had it in my adrenal glands, my ovaries, my ribs, my fingers, my hips, my femurs, and 1 foot. So at that point, he decided that, Keytruda wasn't working. We had to try something else.
First of all, I'm so sorry that you had to deal with that kind of, news. And by the way, just to be clear, all of that was new except for the lymph nodes.
Yes.
So it was so clear that you needed to be switched off onto something else. How did you, by the way, mentally and emotionally sort of manage or get through that kind of news?
It was hard. I thought, just based on how I felt physically, I thought that April of 2019 was my last day or last month on Earth. I felt so bad. So when the doctor told me that, I thought, well, that's it. I might as well get everything in order, do what I want to. And, I had slipped into a severe depression. So I had asked my primary care doctor to put me on antidepressants. So I ended up on antidepressants. And in the meantime, I was still on Ativan because that helped with my anxiety. They switched that over to something called Buspar, which helps my anxiety as well.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Honestly, in so many of these conversations, and I had been in a depression too, I think it's so important to shine a light on the fact that the mental health aspect of it is critical to take care of. And so I am so glad that you went to your doctor and said, this is what I need.
Yeah, it was not only physically, did I think April was my last month. Mentally, I wanted it to be my last month. I was not only just in that amount of pain, it was the whole how long do I have? It's just tell me that. Just tell me how long I have. And that's all you thought about constantly, 24 hours a day. I couldn't sleep. Even though I was forced to sleep, you didn't really sleep well. There was no relaxing. I would go to the grocery store and say, what's the point of doing this? Why? There's no point. Even everyday things just seemed pointless. So the antidepressants definitely helped to pick me back up and make me more hopeful.
That is so powerful, because those are the things that we don't understand unless we're living it.
Yes.
It is the feeling of hopelessness and helplessness. And like you said, these mundane things you're doing, like grocery shopping or laundry or whatever, and being like, well, I don't even know how much longer I have. What's the point?
Yes.
Outside of the antidepressants, was there anything else that helped? Did you ever consider, maybe I should talk to like a therapist or talk more to my loved ones? Or
no, the biggest thing that helped was Facebook. I found a bunch of lung cancer groups, and there were people that had been through it, same thing as I've been going through. So over time, after I told my story and heard everybody else's stories, my big driving force was helping others. That was because I remember what it felt like to be diagnosed. So to put it out there to help other people get through that and know that they have a chance really, really made my life more worthwhile.
I am so moved by that. I love that what I call it is turning pain to purpose.
Yes.
And you absolutely did that. And you'll do this now with sharing your story here too. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
If you were to just share, where in this process did you learn about the MET amplification? When did that happen?
That happened on my last infusion of Keytruda.
Okay.
The doctor had decided to take some blood to do the biomarker testing to see if I had any. The strange thing, and he had told me, is that there usually isn't a lot of people with biomarkers that have squamous lung cancer. So I didn't think anything was going to come back. So it took a couple weeks to get it back. Back then, I think it was like a 6 to 8 week wait till you found out. And that's when I found out that I had MET amplification. And I couldn't have been happier.
Can you, first of all, how long did you say the wait was?
About 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh my gosh. How did you get through that time? And not just that time, but anytime you had to deal with what we call scanxiety, which I think applies to more than just scans. It's the anxiety of waiting for just results in general.
Right. Well, oddly enough, I don't really have scanxiety. I grew up with a mother who always told me that you can't worry about things that you don't know is going wrong. It's only going to hurt you more than anything. So I've always tried to live by that. So I don't really have anxiety, but waiting for the biomarkers was a little testing, because at this point I had lost so much weight. I was down 40 pounds. I did nothing but sleep all day. Everything hurt. I had a rash covering me, all my chest. So I really needed to get off Keytruda.
Bring us back to that moment when you learned the results, how the doctor described to you what it meant, and how you reacted.
Yes, he had told me, he said, it's rare that squamous has a biomarker, but you have it. And the good news is that there's a drug that works for it. So I was so excited, and I'm like, oh, okay. How long do I have to sit in a chair? And he's like, no, it's a pill. You take a pill twice a day. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I said, okay, what's the side effects? And he started explaining to me, and I'm like, all right, they're not that bad. And it seems like the Keytruda ones were worse. So I thought, all right, I'll try it. It's the fact that it's a pill now just thrilled me to death, because now I didn't have to travel back and forth. and worry about all that. It's just, I could take it at home. Best thing ever.
Because of course we want to find the treatment that works, but also the quality of life, to your point before about just how does it impact my life, the convenience of it. So the pill meant that you could be at home.
Yes.
And it felt more, did it feel more, I don't know, like normal, if you will?
Yes. Yeah. And then when you tell people about it, they're like, well, that's not possible. And well, yeah, it is. Yeah, I take a pill. I mean, people that are new to lung cancer don't know that there are pills that you can take to help keep it at bay. So,
And this is the importance of that testing, and hopefully that, you know, the place of care people go to, they know to automatically do it after the biopsy, or just you send off and make sure that you get everything tested, because this is the difference. The difference is in the treatment options that are possible. And the great news in lung cancer too is that stage 4 is looking so different because there's been so much development, and you are a great example of that.
Yes.
Any last thing to people about the importance of making sure that biomarker testing is happening?
I don't know. I'm still trying to learn at what stage they will do biomarker testing, because I think they don't really want to do it on the stage 1, stage 2, 3 and 4, more than likely they will do it. And I'm hoping that they start doing that earlier because it makes more sense, but that's out of my hands at this point.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but of course, earlier the better. And I think we are trending in that direction overall in cancer, which is good.
Yes.
So describe the regimen, and it was Crizotinib that you were put on, or Xalkori. And so describe how often, and then before we talk about the response to it, I'd love to also, if you had any side effects.
Sure. So the first week, I was put on 500 milligrams. So that was 1 pill in the morning and 1 pill in the evening. I started having very bad GI issues again. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go. So my doctor got the smart idea, let's cut you in half. So I said, okay. So I only take 1 pill a day, and the only side effect I had, and I don't know how to explain this, is if I went from dark to light, I would have like a trail. So I could see the door going sideways for a little more than it should. I don't know how to explain that. And it was strange, but I thought, oh, if this is all I have to deal with, I can do this. You know, it only happens sometimes.
So something with the vision.
Yes. Yeah, it does cause visual disturbances. They don't really explain that so much. So it could be, you could lose your eyesight, which I didn't have that problem with. So I just had those trails.
And does that still happen?
Not really now, no.
So it lasted for?
It lasted for about a year.
Okay. Okay. It's something to watch out for.
Yes.
So you just told your doctor, hey, I noticed this.
Yep. And he said it was normal for Xalkori or Crizotinib. So I was like, okay. But if it got worse, or it became where I was starting to lose my eyesight, then yeah, we would have had to do something different.
Did you check in with an optometrist at all during this time, or?
I did. Because I had to get my eyes checked anyway. So in the meantime, I told them about the trails and that it was probably a side effect of my drug. And they didn't see anything in my eyes to say, okay, you're going to lose your eyesight. There was nothing there.
Okay. But that was an appointment you made separately, individually. It wasn't part of the treatment plan.
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Well, I'm glad in a way that was you advocating for yourself too, to make sure that everything was being monitored.
Yeah.
So outside of that, nothing else really in terms of side effects. But the GI issues, could you talk a little bit more about what those were? Because they can be incredibly, disruptive, obviously, and so hard to deal with.
Yeah, it was mostly vomiting and some diarrhea, but it ended up being diarrhea for like a day, and then it was completely constipation for days on end. Yeah, and it was like, no matter what you did, I tried everything, and I mean everything, to get rid of the constipation, which was harder than stopping the diarrhea.
What did you try? What did you try?
Oh gosh, everything in the store. I tried prunes. I tried prune juice. I used to have milk intolerance or lactose intolerance. So I would drink massive amounts of milk, eat a lot of ice cream, thinking that'll loosen it up. No, nothing did. Nothing at all. I don't know if you've ever seen like raccoons when they have their babies, they tend to rub their stomachs, like lick their stomachs. Well, I was actually pushing on my stomach to get it moving, which worked, but not easily.
That's tough. I mean, it's an up and down. And I remember a side effect of my chemo back in the, few years ago was similar. It was like you had diarrhea, you had constipation, it was back and forth. And it's like everything that you did to try to, mitigate one, then another thing came up, and it's hard. It's hard to deal with. But so the thing that worked for you was your doctor said, okay, it's bad enough where it's really impacting your life. Let's have the dosage.
Yeah.
And then it took care of that.
Oh, it did. Yeah. It went away. The GI issues went away immediately. Along with all the other things. My cancer, like I said, in April of 2019, I thought I was gone. So the first week of Crizotinib, it was a little rough. The second week, all of a sudden, I felt like a new woman. I had no pain, no lumps anywhere, and just felt like I did before I had cancer. So I knew at that point that the Crizotinib was starting to work.
And in fact, in terms of the complete response, you could measure it within 2 weeks.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Oh, yeah. It's such a great feeling to know that it worked that fast. And even my doctor really couldn't believe it. I was like, that doesn't seem possible. But the fact that I could feel it. It wasn't just my brain saying, oh, you feel better because you're taking like a placebo effect. It wasn't that at all. I knew I physically felt better. I mentally felt better. And I knew it was a good drug.
And you physically felt better, mentally felt better. And it manifested in the fact that you said within 2 weeks, you could walk again.
Yes, I could walk again.
Lumps
I was out of the wheelchair.
Yeah, no more wheelchair. The lumps and the bumps went away.
Yep.
You could eat and drink with no problem.
I could eat and drink, no problem.
And I think what you had said to me was you were 90% back to yourself.
Yes, 90% back.
Can you just highlight that a little bit more? What does it mean to feel like I'm 90% back to myself again?
Well, it ended up, it's you have the hope. So you're thinking, wow, I physically feel like that or mentally feel like that. I can live like this. I can go about my everyday life and enjoy things again.
I'm letting it sink in because even I'm getting a little emotional thinking about just the lows that you had hit and how quickly that turnaround was.
Yes, it was. And I just kept calling it the miracle drug. And even my family called it. They're like, Aim, you were like stuck. I could not walk up the stairs to take a shower. So I hadn't taken a shower for 6 months, almost 6 months. So I didn't sleep in my bed. I slept on the recliner downstairs and only slept laying on my back because obviously my femur, everything was broken at the time, had all the issues. But it's miracle drug.
And your doctor also had said the word miracle, right?
Yes, because I keep going and asking him if I'm boring.
If you're boring, can you?
Yes, if I'm boring, yes. So he said I'm the fastest turnaround he's ever seen.
So that's a great ever. It's a great ever to be, right? The fastest. I think it is great that you also mentioned this, because context wise, this is not going to be everybody's response.
Right.
Not going to
Exactly.
be everybody's response. You had an incredible response to Crizotinib.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the power of it, which is amazing.